Guys, welcome to episode 48 of the Northstar podcast, here with Pablo Escobar once again. And we're on our second part of our peptide series of fat loss and weight loss. So a lot of you guys feel stuck when it comes to fat loss. And we've heard all the countless stories of, keto diet, high intensity training, calorie deficit, and not seeing any results, even though they're trying everything and trying really hard. And yeah, we just want to talk about peptides because at the end of the day, it's not just about calories in and out. There's a bigger picture when it comes to stuff, and hormones play a big role. And we're just going to be covering some more peptides, such as GLP-1s, when it comes to fat loss. Yeah, Jeremy, you got anything you want to?
I think the biggest thing here is just like understanding what we really want to make clear is like with anytime you're losing fat, you want to try to preserve as much muscle as you can. Mm-hmm. I think the misconception though gets into like people freak out if they don't gain muscle in a fat loss phase, and that's actually not the goal. The goal is to preserve. Yes. You might gain some if you're, a beginner or you're genetically gifted, or you're like super, super diligent. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing is to, maintain what you have. And it is normal sometimes to lose a bit of muscle. And when I say a bit of muscle, I don't mean like you lose 20 pounds and you lose 10 pounds of fat and 10 pounds of muscle. I mean like you might lose 1 or 2 pounds of muscle and you lose 15 pounds of fat. Yeah. So it is normal sometimes to lose a little bit of muscle, especially in a calorie deficit, depending on how long you've been doing it. But this one's going to be really big on, trying to explain how to mitigate that and just some peptides that have been shown to help with fat loss too. So
the ones we're going to be covering today are GLP-1s, such as our semaglutide, liraglutide, which go into our appetite as well as our insulin sensitivity, MOTS-C, and 89604, and Tesamorelin. So, ready to get right into this?
Let's do it.
Okay, so GLP-1s. Let's summarize it for our audience here.
Yeah, so GLP-1s are synthetic, man.
Big words, man.
Holy moly. Synthetic. So they're a little bit different than the previous episode where we talked about the BPC and things like that. They're the big rave right now. Ozempic, Mounjaro. The one thing is that these are peptides that have gone through the FDA process.
Yes.
Currently, they are looking at a peptide called Retatrutide, and it will have some fancy name like Ozempic and Mounjaro does. Ozempic is semaglutide, Mounjaro is tirzepatide. So that's their like brand name. Yeah. So it'd be like Nike, they have shoes, Adidas has shoes, those things. So when you're looking at it, they're probably giving them some fancy name with Retatrutide. I don't know what it is, but
I like Retta. Retta's nice and simple.
Yeah, it's probably going to be, I don't know.
What most people call it.
Yeah. You guys can take a guess. Yeah. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, leave it in the comments.
So they're all a little bit different. And what's going to happen is Ozempic was the first. Ozempic's actually been around for a very long time.
1970s or something. Probably earlier, I think, than that.
Yeah, a lot of these reason why these have gotten like very popular is because
celebrities.
Well, it's just the thing is it was made for individuals that were diabetic. Mm-hmm. And then the side effect of the medication was weight loss. Yeah. So what happened was people were like, well, if that's the side effect, then
that's pretty good side effect to have.
Then let's start taking it. So Ozempic started, or semaglutide started, and that one was really popular. And I would say what's happened over these different like phases. So like it went Ozempic, tirzepatide, and then Retatrutide. I found that Ozempic, for a lot of people, had a lot of negative side effects at higher dosages. Microdoses were okay. Tirzepatide, people have found like hunger was like crushed.
Yeah,
like they just like hunger suppression was probably one of the higher ones. Retatrutide actually had found that from what I've read and heard is that Retatrutide doesn't have as much of an appetite suppressant, but it had efficiently lost body fat more efficiently. So it's like all of them have a little bit of a different kind of function. But what's going to happen is as soon as like Retatrutide comes out, they're going to already be researching something else.
Yeah,
and they already are. So it's just, and that's the kind of breakdown of them. There are other ones too, but those would be the 3 big ones right now that are out. Also, they're very popular because you only have to most of the times inject once a week.
Yeah, so they last a little longer, and you can microdose. So
yeah, and you don't have to be injecting all every day, and that's why they're also very popular because it's just more attractive to not inject every single day.
Yep.
So, I would say that was probably the easier breakdown of them all. If you really want to get all the scientific stuff,
benefits: you're less hungry, suppressed appetite. That's going to be less food, less calories you're consuming, blood sugar control as well. So people with type 2 diabetes, it's going to be
and like
that's what it's made for, right?
The thing is like someone who dose matters in this circumstance. In any situation, dose matters. There's a good podcast I listen to, Dr. Tanya Moore, and she was on Mind Pump. So if you look up Dr. Tanya Moore Mind Pump, you'll find one of her episodes where she talked about microdosing of Ozempic. It was really cool, actually. So microdosing means taking like a lower dose than what is quote unquote the starting dose. So like if the starting dose is 1 milligram, microdose in this situation would be like 0.25 milligrams. So like, like 4 times lower.
Yeah, 4 microdose would equal 1 full dose.
Yeah. So again, at the end of the day, it's you just got to know dosages and kind of know where you would start with them, right?
Yeah. But usually that's probably what people are getting recommended, right? Just to build some tolerance to it first. And
like it's hard because it's, for individuals that would start, and what I've seen is that at the end of the day, I always look at it as like you want to start with the smallest dose that is still effective. And then when you need to, it's called titrating. So titrating means just like starting at a lower dose, and then once you find that the lower dose isn't working as much, you titrate. So you increase a little bit to another dose, and then you increase a little bit. So then you don't build such a big tolerance. So then it's not like you start at, for example, let's say you start at 2 milligrams. It's like, well, if you inject 2 milligrams, you can't go back at that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're gonna have like really, depending on the medication, because dosages will change different, but you can't go back from that. So, you always want to start smaller usually, and then build your way up from what I've seen for most people. That's just something.
I think another good, example would be like, let's say you're someone who's eating 120 grams of protein, and here you need to increase your protein intake, and you shoot up to 200, right? Yeah. It's like, how much of that benefit will you get, and how much, I guess it's not as bad when it comes to peptide, where you can't really go as back because you have that extra stimulus. Mm-hmm. But anything, when you just shoot it up too high, there's usually some stuff that's it's like rated diminishing returns as well, I would say. And it's like, are you someone who needs to do that, right? Or are you like type 2, are really obese, where you'd want to get that weight loss a lot faster? And
yeah, there might be certain cases where you start a higher dose if you need to, lose. Like if weight loss is one of those things where you have to do it quickly.
Yeah.
There's certain cases.
Like your health's on the line.
Yeah, there's certain cases. It's just like any kind of, bariatric surgery or things like that, right?
Yeah.
Like there might be cases that you need to lose the weight quick for your health, but not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
Right. So.
But these ones that we mentioned, is there differences between how it targets your visceral fat versus your subcutaneous fat, which is like the fat on the inside versus the fat on the outside you see?
Are you talking about GLPs or just like any of the fat loss?
I would say do the GLPs. I think that's something people ask quite a bit about.
Retatrutide has the... Oh, man, I got to look it up here, guys. Give me a second. I can't remember everything off the top of my head, unfortunately. So Retatrutide has 3 different pathways, which is a little bit different because these 3 pathways are not found. So it has GLP-1, which is glucagon, like peptide 1, GIP, which is glucose dependent, and then you have glucagon receptors. So with the Retatrutide, the outlying is it has glucagon receptors, where tirzepatide has GLP-1 and GIP, and then Ozempic or semaglutide would just be GLP-1. For this case here, the nice thing is that it's kind of more of it almost signals your body to utilize the body fat more efficiently in this case.
Okay.
So, at the end of the day, it's just depending on the
by doing it, you'll probably lose both
medication.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where there's certain pathways and things that you have to understand about it. At the end of the day, most people, when we look at it, are probably not going to really care. They're just going to care about is it going to make me lose fat faster?
Yeah. And side effects
but
and
I
dosage.
do think that, you should at least know a little bit about this. I'm not going to go into the,
big pathways
depth and
all that. Yeah.
This is the analytical of this.
That'll take hours.
And nobody's going to want to listen, right?
Yeah.
But
unless you're trying to go to sleep, it would probably be very nice to fall asleep too.
But yeah, Retatrutide does have a 3, I would say, pathway antagonist, you want to call it, whatever, how you want to, classify it. Yeah.
Cool. MOTS-C. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've tried it myself.
You tried it yourself? Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Basically what I heard is your body makes, mitochondria. Everybody here has heard of it, the power of the cell. It's a small protein that will basically act as a messenger, and it'll just make it more efficient for your mitochondria to use sugar as fuel. Is that?
Yeah, so the thing about MOTS-C that's nice is that sometimes people will take MOTS-C in a fat loss phase because it'll help the energy, and you won't get that quote unquote what we call diet crash.
Diet crash, yeah.
So you get fatigue. So it helps your mitochondria just become more efficient. It also has an appetite suppressant factor sometimes, depending on the individual. I've tried it does for myself.
Okay.
Some people don't notice anything with MOTS-C.
Yeah. Are you taking oral or?
No, injectable MOTS-C.
Injectable, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's MOTS-C is one of those ones that it's not as popular either because it's not one of those ones that's quote unquote sexy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not as quick as I would say something when you take a GLP, it's instant, right? Where these other ones that we've talked about takes time for you to see.
The marathon runner versus
right?
sprinter.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times people will say, well, after a week, I haven't noticed anything. Well, it's well, it has to get to a point where
money
a saturation point. It has to go through the system. There's different things that has to happen before you can just be oh, this doesn't work. So giving it some time will definitely help. Yeah, it just helps with your metabolic health, weight management. So it supports fat loss while preserving muscle mass, optimizing the body's energy balance.
Yeah.
So that's basically the impact it does.
Yeah,
so.
Especially for longevity, right? And just overall lifespan and health span.
Well, because it promotes lipolysis. So fat burning, increases calorie expenditure, and helps regulate body composition. Mm-hmm. It does have a glucose regulation as well. So improves insulin sensitivity. It has its glucose uptake. And may assist in type 2 diabetes management by stabilizing blood sugars. So it just helps kind of thing. Again, a lot of these things help you work more efficiently.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the body works more efficiently. You're going to process nutrients differently. You're going to be able to do things differently, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you can be flexible with the other things as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the last one I want to chat about was Tesamorelin and AOD 9604. That's a long one.
Yeah. So Tesamorelin is cool because it targets visceral fat.
Yes. So that's what we were chatting about earlier about the fat on the inside.
Yeah. So it actually targets visceral fat. It's kind of actually classified under a growth hormone inhibitor.
Yes.
Though.
Yeah. That's what I heard as well.
So you can, I guess you could actually classify it under your muscle gain too. Because you could get some effects muscle gain as
because that growth hormone releasing?
Well, it's just because Tesamorelin is sometimes actually paired with CJC and epinephrine. So if you haven't listened to, part 1 of this episode, go back and go listen to that and then come back. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's cool because you start to understand like what starts to work better for you, right? And this is what I was saying about trying too many things at once. It's like, well, what's actually working for you?
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell because it's like, well, is it this that's working for me, or is it that that's working for me, right? So you just got to make sure at the end of the day you really know like why
you're taking something, right? And
why you're taking it, what does it do too?
Yeah.
Like, don't just take Tesamorelin or something like this and not like have the understanding of exactly like what it does or why you're taking it, or
yeah, it can affect everyone differently. You have to like learn to manage it, track it as well. Like I would say, obviously, I'm pretty big on a data guy, so like I like to always see like all the like minor and big effects that it leads up to. But
it's one of those things where it's cool because at the end of the day, it's like it helps with like your growth hormone releasing.
Yeah.
So it stimulates natural growth hormone,
which makes it more efficient.
And again, like this is what I was saying about the last episode, like a lot of these, it says right here, individuals with HIV associated, but it has since gained interest for its broader metabolic and body composition benefits because it helps reduce visceral fat.
Yeah.
So it targets more of your visceral fats with the fat around the stomach. Most
stubborn fat as well.
Yeah, I would say like most individuals, if you're, as you lose weight, you tend to lose also visceral fat at the same time. Like it's not like you're going out of there and you're just like, I'm going to just target visceral fat.
Yeah,
right?
it builds around, right? You can't target
if you're in a deficit. Well, this is kind of like it does target, like it helps stimulate
the more resistant,
the
I would say.
Yeah, so it helps like break fat breakdown.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool in that way. Mm-hmm. Where if you're looking at the AOD,
yeah,
you're more looking at a different kind of pathway of how it works. So it's a little bit different because it's the fragment of human growth hormone. So that's there's different ways of going about it or different ways of explaining it. But again, it just helps for promoting fat breakdown. So again, it's like, do you want to be taking, AOD, then Tesamorelin, then CJC, then Epinephrine? Like you don't want to be taking, too much of something that might hit the same receptor, because then you're gonna
shock it, right? It's gonna be
it's gonna just kind of be like anything, right?
Yeah, too much stimulus, it adapts, your body adapts, and then it's hard to go back once you've adapted.
Yeah, and it's cool because AOD will help reduce the size of fat cells by promoting their breakdown and minimizing fat storage. So because it's a fragment, it targets fat loss exclusively. So avoiding the growth, promoting, and other systematic effects typically associated with full length.
Kind of like a rifle approach. It's just going straight for the fat loss.
Yeah, so that's why it's a fragment, right? It's not targeting the growth hormone. So like when you look at growth hormone, for example, it can do different things.
Yeah.
Where this one is a fragment of it where it specifically targets the fat loss.
The fat loss.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got any client stories with clients on GLP-1s or any of the ones we just mentioned that you'd want?
Yeah, I know
probably quite
crazy,
a bit. Yeah,
man. Yeah, I've actually with clients, I'm not going to name any, but
yeah, for sure.
I've seen like a lot of people think like, yes, you'll lose fat, of course, but like reduced inflammation, less brain fog, better gut health, like all these different things that a lot of people don't really realize that it helps with. Mm-hmm. So that's also cool too. So.
Yeah, especially with like the insulin and like the sugar levels. Blood sugar levels are a big thing that people don't really, it's hard to track, right, on a day-to-day basis. But having those benefits and just seeing that energy by,
Yeah, and I think too, like the nice thing about, what I've seen is, I think the misconception about it is that there's a lot of abuse of it, right? And that's the thing is like losing, like even, and I had a conversation with someone about the other day actually, and they were asking, well, I don't want to lose muscle if I try it. And I'm like, that's totally fair. That's possible. But I also said, if you go on a crash diet and only eat 500 calories a day, you're also going to be losing muscle, and you're also going to be, it goes both. It's just being in a very high calorie deficit is going to create muscle loss. It's going to create, bone density loss. Like just being in a low calorie diet is going to, but what's happening is because people are taking GLPs is they're not eating enough, and they're like, well, the GLPs are doing it. But it's like, even if you took the GLP out and then you just
did the crash diet, and you just cut it all out,
you would still see negative effects of it.
It's like literally what it does, right? It's like if your appetite is low and you're not eating as much and you're not getting your nutrients in, yes, you're gonna fucking feel like shit, right? It's like
So at the end of the day, like that's what the misconception is behind it. So at the end of the day, it's like you got to eat adequate protein, obviously, weight lift, also
sleep, hydrate,
fiber, like any.
That's such a big thing. Yeah.
Well, it's just like any advice we would give to anyone that's not even on a GLP.
Exactly.
Like literally
what you need to do.
Yeah, it's just most people that sometimes try GLP, they're not even doing that to begin with.
Yeah.
So you have to you have to make sure you're doing these things, because then you'll be ending up losing like a lot of muscle, and muscles, I like to use the word as expensive tissue. So
yeah, exactly. It is expensive tissue because a lot more easier to lose it than to gain it. Yeah.
Or keep it. Well, once you have it, it's a little bit easier to
more
keep.
More maintainable, but
to keep gaining gets harder and harder. So.
Yeah. I'll say a positive story. One thing I noticed with one of my clients is a woman, she's under her 30s, and she had PCOS as well as hypothyroidism for the longest times. Mm-hmm. And she started taking like a Retatrutide, and she noticed that her cycles and her cravings went from irregular to more regular. Hormones started to stabilize. She was also doing what we just mentioned with the strength training, going to the gym, focusing on her nutrient density as well. And it had helped normalize her cycles, which she had issues with years on end. And it's such a cool thing, right?
A lot of people with what's called food noise.
Yep.
So food noise is just like you're constantly thinking about food, and it's always on your mind. And if you've never experienced it, it's hard to explain or hard to understand. But it helps kind of like turn that switch off, or at least calm it. I've heard, I've actually had a lot of people have had eating disorders and things in the past, and they've tried a GLP, and they're like, I feel the most free I've ever felt in my life, because that constant voice in my head is like gone. Like
that's powerful.
Right. And then that's a huge thing. Like, not take the fat loss, take the, health, other benefits out of the way, like your psychological health too, and 100%. How your mental health works.
And that feeling of guilt and
so it's huge, right? So, and it just helps, like a lot of times I've seen it help people with portion control, because it's almost like what people do is they hit a wall. So it's like they're eating their food, and then you hit a wall, and it's like, I can't eat anymore. But it's like most of the times you would finish it or have more because it's there, right? Where this like helps you almost just like, oh yeah, you know what? No, I can chill now. Yeah. Like I don't need to have the, buffet where I'm having like 20 pieces of pizza, right? It's like I'm okay having one piece of pizza,
because that craving and that voice,
whatever. Because it's not like going at 100 miles per minute, right? Mm-hmm. So,
cool. Some FAQs, just like last episode. GLPs, how could they, like we mentioned about like just taking a growth hormone or something, or like the TRT, testosterone, and gaining muscle, but do GLPs help replace exercise and diet?
No, I would say they kind of like aid in the aspect of like, it just depends on the individual, right?
Yeah.
The thing is with any GLP from my like understanding and how I viewed it is, you have to treat it just like if you're looking at a deficit, or you're looking like what I said about like your goal isn't to gain a crazy amount of muscle, if any. Like that's the thing. It's like, how can I lose body fat but also preserve the muscle I have? Because sometimes in the case is like you might have to gain a little bit more muscle before you lose body fat. I know that sounds like contradicting.
Yep.
But sometimes, like if you have no muscle on your frame and you're saying you want that like quote unquote toned look, well, that's the fat that's around that muscle. So if you have no muscle, and then you lose the fat, there's going to be no tone there, right?
Yeah.
So you just got to be understanding, and you have to really understand your goal and how to get to it. But also you have to understand, like, what am I willing to sacrifice to get to that goal? And am I willing to take the time to actually like focus on my nutrition, focus on my weightlifting? Or am I just taking this to just lose weight and then
to make yourself feel better or something?
Well, then all of a sudden you lose 40 pounds and you've lost, 20 pounds of muscle. And it's like, well, okay, that's...
And the thing is, like, if you do the other stuff, you always will get the results faster, right?
Yeah,
it's like, if you do your strength training, you do all the other stuff, you're going to compound. Everything compounds. You're going to build healthier habits as well. I find that it stacks your habits versus relying on something, I think.
Yeah, if you don't always like chase the number on the scale too, that's a big thing. Right?
Yeah.
Just because you lost weight doesn't mean you lost fat.
Doesn't mean you're actually healthier as well.
Yeah.
Technically, if you lose too much weight, you can actually be unhealthier from where you started from before, right?
Well, I think, and it goes both ways. I think a lot of times people think like, when I gain muscle, it's like, or when I gain weight, it's fat. And when I lose weight, it's fat. It's like, no.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. Like you could have gained water. You could have gained some muscle. You could have gained some fat. Yeah. But you could have also, had an extra inflammation that just created more weight on the scale, and then vice versa. You might have less inflammation the next day, and that's why the scale's down 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it goes both ways. So.
Yeah. This is another question I get all the time. It's like, okay, I feel like I'm ready to hop on a peptide or a GLP. Mm-hmm. Do I have to stay on it for life? Or is it something that's permanent? I get asked that all the time.
Yeah, I've got asked that too. No, it doesn't have to be. But then I like playing the other side. I'm like,
devil's advocate.
How much has it improved your quality of life? And it doesn't mean that because you were taking it, quote unquote, every week for 12 weeks, that you have to keep doing it every week for 12 weeks. Like
a diet, right?
Well, you could do maybe one injection every month. You could maybe, like, it doesn't, just because it says you have to do it every week doesn't mean you have to do it every week, right? Yeah. It's just, you can wean off, you can do it like, maybe you do 12 weeks and then you do 6 months off and then you do another 12 weeks. Everyone's going to be different. But I always try to say, it's like, at the end of the day, you might try it and you might love it, or you might hate it, or, you will never know. Yep. But at the end of the day, I always say, like, the worry of taking something for, like, and that's something that I always kind of am curious on why people are so scared of sometimes taking things for life, because if your quality of life has improved so much because of one thing, and maybe that comes down to your genetics, maybe that comes down to your lifestyle. If you're not willing to change your lifestyle, your work habits, your this, your that, then, and that medication might help with those things, then you're actually not really willing to, like, make a long life change if you're not willing to try to change those other things first. Yeah. So then I asked, like, well, why are you so scared if you have to take it for your whole life? I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying, I always ask, like, what's the fear, right? If your quality of life is so much better, if you come to me, 16 weeks later, and you're like, Jeremy, I started taking this and now my life I feel amazing. I've never felt like this before in my life. It's like, okay, like, why, like, what's the fear of having to take it, right? And I don't mean take it like how you were religiously taking it before, but, so I always just try to, play the other side of it too. Yeah. So,
devil's advocate.
Yeah. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's like, what's the fear? Is it because you're scared to rely on something? Like, I
find that's a big thing. It's money could be one thing because it's expensive. That's understandable, right? But if you are getting, feeling better, you're looking more sexy, you probably will end up making more money somehow, right? So
you have more energy. You might have better. You might be a better.
It goes down to quality of life.
You might be a better parent.
Yeah.
You might be a better partner. You might be
if you're always cranky and you're
a business owner. You might, and that all translates.
Everything translates. Yeah.
Right. So you got to look also too at, like, why or how has this improved my lifestyle? Not just like, I'm so scared that I might have to take this forever. And it's like, at the end of the day, you don't really have, unless there's, a predisposition and you have to take something forever because that's literally keeping you alive. That's a different story. But, in cases like this where somebody's so worried about, having, I don't even like the word relying, because at the end of the day, if somebody really doesn't want to do it anymore, they can just stop if they really want to. But I always ask, like, what is the pros and cons of stopping?
Yep.
And just ask yourself that at the end of the day.
Balance
right?
on the scale.
And just reflect on it, right? And see. So
yeah. Should we just go into a quick little rapid fire to finish off this episode?
Yeah, let's do
Cool.
it. We talked about nutrition, like I said, protein, fiber.
And if anybody wants to know more, they can always ask us, DM us, leave some questions in the Q&A section.
Sure.
GLP-1s, do they burn fat directly? Because I feel like a lot of people think that they just target your fat.
So GLP, like the only really one that's more on the fence with this one is that Retatrutide that I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say the biggest thing, though, the reason why you lose weight is because it just, suppresses your appetite.
Exactly.
Right? It just helps you, it helps a calorie deficit become easier.
Yeah.
Like that's like in bodybuilding world right now, it's nuts. Like think of it, if you have to prep for a show and you have to get down to 4%, like imagine now you have a GLP versus back then when they just had to do it without a GLP.
Yeah.
It's like easier to get to that goal because you don't have to worry. Like if anybody's ever done a diet or has done a diet for a long period of time or has gone down to 5% or whatever.
Yep.
Once you get under 10, man, it's hard. It is very, very hard.
Food noise becomes such a big thing.
I've been under 10 once in my life and like it sucks.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people are like they thrive and they want to become under 10, but like there's a lot of like, a lot of people
don't actually even know like what 10% body fat looks like. They think like, I've met people where they feel like they're 10%. Even I thought when I was at 10%, I got checked out, but I didn't do like a proper thing. I just used a caliper and I'm like, no. And then I remember actually going down to like 8% and knowing like, yes, it is. Dude, it is hard. Yeah,
you can kind of look cool, like.
Yeah, you see a couple of veins here and there, right? But the thing is, the weight rebounds so quick. Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's
and the thing is like, you gotta ask yourself how sustainable. And usually most of the times, most people are probably healthiest around 10 to 15.
Yeah.
And why I say the range is because there's some people like me, for example, I tend to hold on more fat, but I also tend to hold on more muscle just naturally. Mm-hmm. Like that's just who I am. That's my body type. Yeah. Where there's some people, like I have buddies who have a hard time keeping muscle on, but they stay lean.
That's what I would say. I'm kind of like that. I've kind of fit that.
Yeah, it's just your genetics.
Exactly.
Right? So that's why like 10 to 15 is usually most of the times where people, or guys, I should say guys.
Yeah, because
females are 10, 15. That's
like, crash their hormones.
You're like shredded, bro.
Yeah, you're full abs.
But yeah, most guys 10 to 15. Females, that one is such a, I would say, a higher spectrum because some females feel better at a higher percent of body fat and some feel a little bit better at lower. So
it goes a lot into like your hormones, your cycle.
There's so much more
cycle. It's goes a lot more in depth.
Females' body fat in my experience with working with females. So.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we already kind of answered this, but GLP-1s with women with PCOS. We kind of covered that where, yes, with the improved insulin resistance and, it can help with cycle regulation.
And a lot of times, like, I'll just make a quick note here. A lot of times when you lose body fat, your health markers just improve.
Yep.
Like in general, like without a GLP.
Yep.
Like if you lose, like let's say you have 30 pounds of body fat and you lose 20 pounds of body fat, most times your blood markers, your health markers just improve because you have less body fat on your body. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of misconception about like that in general, but most of the time you just become a healthier individual, other things will then get healthier.
Exactly. Like you're typically going to have better cardiovascular anyways, a lower body fat as well, and that's going to lead to so many other health benefits, right? Oh, for someone who's taking a GLP-1, who's just planning to hop on a GLP-1, let's say they just listen to podcasts, and like, all right, this is something for me, right? How much muscle do you think they will expect to lose? Like we mentioned it before, but like typically like that 2...
It's hard to say because there isn't like a really... Like I could lose no muscle and then you could lose 5 pounds.
Yeah.
Like it's so, and we could do, like we have 200-pound people beside each other. You could do the same diet, same calories, same workouts. Like you put them in, like literally make them test like lab rats.
Yeah.
And one guy could keep all his muscle, if not gain some. And one guy could lose, his muscle, right? Yeah. So
everybody adheres to it differently.
Yeah. So I would just say the biggest thing is like, your mindset going into it would be how how can I preserve as much muscle and how can I create it where I'm not absolutely crushing my appetite, where I'm not, still, able to, like, you still want to be able to eat. I think that's also the misconception. You still want to be able to eat. So, and then just be able to like reflect on that as well, right? So.
Do you find that people usually rebound when they, cycle off? Whereas they gain the weight pretty quick?
Probably dose they were at, or if they, you could titrate out. So I said titrating up, you can also titrate out. So let's say you hit 2 milligrams at one dose, you can do maybe 4 weeks at 1, and then you can do 4 weeks at 0.5, and then you do 4 weeks at 0.25. And then you can kind of, you do the reverse titrate too.
Do people usually do that with stuff like TRT or stuff like that? I think I've heard about that. Or
TRT usually is something that's permanent. Usually. But most of the times with TRT, the hard thing is you have to find a dose, try it out for a bit, and then see where you land. You might have to go higher, you might have to go lower. That's just more of a testing period.
Versus a titrate. Okay.
Titrating is more like you start at a dose because it creates less, I guess you could titrate testosterone, I guess, as well. It can go either or too. But again, it's just so dependent on the individual. There's so many different factors that play a role.
Yeah. It always depends.
Yeah.
It always depends. That's the biggest thing, right? With all these questions. It always depends.
If somebody ever tells you there's this is the way, run away.
Yeah. Who do you think should consider to use Tesamorelin? We covered it a little bit, but.
I would say, if visceral fat is a really big concern, you might have a predisposition, you might have genetics where you are someone who holds more visceral fat.
Yeah.
The thing with Tesamorelin is it's expensive and the dose is high.
Yeah.
Not dose is high in a bad way, you're not getting negative, but usually most of the times a vial will only last you 10 days. And if you're doing a 12-week cycle, you need 10 times, you need 9 vials. It's 90 days, right?
What's the vial typically? Would you say?
Usually it's 10 milligrams.
Yeah.
Usually 10 milligrams you can get, and that's 9 vials you'll need for 12 weeks. They usually say you'll see most of the benefits of it after 8 weeks. So if you do 12 weeks, and vials I've seen go for $200. So if you do, that's $1,800 for 12 weeks. So you gotta outweigh that. That's what I've seen. So it just depends, right? And one is on the lower side. I've seen 1 to 2 milligrams being recommended. So if you do 2 milligrams, that's even more. Now you have 18 vials.
Yep.
Right. Again, you always start low and then evaluate. But again, there's some of this stuff costs, right? And that's at the end of the day.
Something you should prepare for.
Yeah, and that's just something you gotta understand. It's just because you buy 1 vial of Tesamorelin and then you're oh, I did 1 vial, and it's okay, you did 10 days. You gotta understand, if you're gonna keep, buying and wanting to do it, you gotta understand the dosages. That's what I said.
Yep.
And how much is gonna cost you to actually do a full cycle.
Because what can you invest in otherwise? Let's say your nutrition is dialed down. If you invest in a nutrition coach or invest into a gym membership, right? It could lead to different stuff. So
well, Epinephrine, we talk about Epinephrine, CJC, it's cheap.
Yeah.
I'll say that right now. I've seen the prices on it, so it is cheaper. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's I think covered, good, man. Cool. Yeah. Cool. I don't think there's anything. Yeah. Anything like I said. We said this in the last one. We're not any doctors or
disclaimer.
You gotta. Yeah. Disclaimer.
I should have said that at the beginning, but
we're just big nerds, man.
Yep. So, exactly.
And we like to talk about things that are cool and even yes we have stories of it, but we also like to see the research and see what it could do. So but yeah, I think that's episode we did 48
on to 49.
Then, 49 is the next one. That'll be part 3 of this. And thank you so much for everyone for listening, and get ready for our next one, which will be on longevity.
Thank you so much, guys. See ya.